What's going on there, everyone? Hope you had a good weekend. This is a kind of a funny story to me. It really makes me happy. Extremely alarming. Journalists are worried about Trump allies digging up their old tweets. Really? So you're telling me that the same people who dig up any piece of dirt on someone will pay for fake dirt, this, that, and the other, is worried about skeletons in their own closet. Ah, God, that makes me chuckle a little bit. That's funny right there. Let's get into this story from the Daily Caller. Some journalists are irate over a New York Times story about allies of the president, Donald Trump, collecting damaging information on reporters from news organizations deemed hostile to the president. Yeah. Sounds like something, actually, it sounds similar to something Obama did, because Obama was he was a lot worse to the press in reality. Trump just says mean things all the time. But Obama used to get reporters banned and all kinds of stuff all the time, and no one said a word. No one said a word. People praised him for it. The hypocrisy's real, people. This is the latest step in a long-running effort by Mr. Trump and his allies to undercut the influence of legitimate news reporting. Legitimate news reporting? I wonder who is believing that statement. I haven't seen a whole lot of legitimate news reporting here lately. Well, within the past few years. It's been conspiracy this, conspiracy that, and just complete and utter nonsense out of the left-wing media. Constantly spewing just vileness all over the airwaves. And the small groups of people listening to them and thinking that this is real news. That's the travesty in the whole situation, is some people refuse to cross-check anything they hear and just go with it. That's a terrible thing, people. Don't do that. Cross-check everything. Cross-check everything. According to the article, it adds that the group responsible has previously released information about journalists from the Washington Post, New York Times, and CNN. 3 outlets that have aggressively investigated Trump. No, 3 outlets that have pushed a bunch of nonsensical things on the people and got called out for it many of times. Many of times. I mean, especially CNN and New York Times. The Washington Post, they're trash too. They're all trash. This is an extremely alarming piece and should worry anyone who cares about independent journalism. There's nothing independent about these places. These are part of the legacy media. There's nothing independent about them. What I do and what people on YouTube and BitChute and all them, that's independent. But yeah. Lydia Polgreen, editor-in-chief of HuffPost, tweeted, Polgreen previously worked at the New York Times. So you could take anything she says with a grain of salt. A CNN spokesperson replied to the New York Times article that when those working on their behalf threatened and retaliated against reporters as a means of suppression, it's a clear abandonment of democracy for something very dangerous, CNN's Brian Stelter tweeted. What? No one's suppressing you, unfortunately. I mean, like I said, y'all aren't even news. You're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists, and you like to just talk in opinion all the time and not actual any news. Look at your ratings. It shows the people that wanted the news left. And y'all swung them over to your enemies Fox News. Because at least Fox News, while yes, they are partisan for the most part, they do have a bunch of annoying liberals on there. Excuse me, not liberals. They got a bunch of like leftists and diehard Democrats that no matter if the Democrats are doing something truly abhorrent, they don't care. They just try anything they can do to spin it to where it's not the Democrats being crazy. We all see that though. Oh, it's just something else, man. And Brian Stelter of it, you have no room to speak about anything. You're one of the worst offenders. Patrick Healy, a New York Times politics editor, called it an orchestrated operation by allies of the White House to attack journalists by manipulating and exaggerating information. What? This is what y'all are doing. And if people are taking your archived tweets and just posting them, they're not manipulating or exaggerating anything. They're just showing your words. They're showing things you typed. That's, factual information. That's something you actually did. How is that manipulating or exaggerating information? Once again, this is what they do. They manipulate and exaggerate everything. They don't like any threats to them. They already have no credibility in a lot of people's eyes, me included. But yeah, I don't think anyone would actually be surprised over some of these people's old tweets. Look how unhinged they are now. Look how incredibly unhinged they are now. MSN and CNN, they have some of the most obscene things on their channel. They say some of the most ridiculous things. It's insane to think that they're actually going with this argument. This represents an escalation of an ongoing campaign against the free press. Okay. For years, the president has used terms like fake news and enemy of the people to demonize journalists and journalism. Not true. Not all. He calls it, generally when he says something was fake news, it really was fake news. You can look at it and see how they try to manipulate what he said to fit their little narratives. Sometimes, they just completely make stuff up that he said. Many times. Like when it comes to the whole Charlottesville thing. They completely said that he was supporting those POS white nationalists out there. And he clearly denounced them. But they act like that never even happened. So come on. New York Times publisher A.G. Sulzberg wrote in a statement to staff, "Now the political operatives behind this campaign will argue that they are reporting on news organizations in the same way that news organizations reported on elected officials and other public figures. They're not." How do you say? See, when you already have something like that prepared to say, it's because you know that's what's happening, and you have to say that to try to manipulate people's minds into thinking, oh yeah, that's probably what they're doing. That's probably it. I hope no one else is buying any of this. I hope no one's buying any of this. Aki Puritz, an author and analyst at AU's School of International Services, suggested that someone will eventually be murdered because of the operation. No, I don't think so. I really highly doubt that. I'm surprised no one's been murdered from y'all helping Antifa and supporting Antifa when they go to, Republicans' houses after they dox them and all this, that, and the other, and they surround their houses chanting after they broke down Tucker Carlson's door while his wife was cowering in a cupboard. Yeah, no, where was any of this type of outrage and all that then? Yeah, y'all were complicit. The left-wing media was complicit in all that No outrage, though. They were saying, this is the people's right, blah, 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 blah. Shut up. They're so just out of control. They're just out of control. And then Bannon, Schwartz, Breitbart, etc. will claim they had nothing to do with what happens next, another tweet read. Kinda like y'all, with y'all's crazy hyperbolic nature and saying some, like I said, some of the most crazy things. Like Trump is literally Hitler and all this stuff, and all of Trump supporters are racist and all this. Yeah. Where's that gotten us? MSNBC host Joy Reid tweeted out the article and wrote, "Welcome to the age of digital brown shirtism." The tweet has since been deleted, but was saved by Seth Mandel, executive editor of the Washington Examiner. Of course. We're going to start saving this stuff. Because it's out of control. We got to be able to call them out whenever we get the chance. If you're a conservative journalist, you have been the target of this behavior by leftist think tanks, which are the same ones spoon-feeding reporters their scoops. So what these reporters are calling a war on the press and is an admission they've been waging this war for years, Mandel tweeted, hitting back at reporters complaining of the news. In conservative shoes, a mile walked, Mandel added. Thank you. See, exactly. That's exactly what I was saying at the beginning of this. They just don't like when we do the same thing to them they've been doing for years. They just don't like it. It hurts their feelings. I think it's hilarious. I think every conservative should always be archiving anything you get your hands on that is insane, you know? Not everything. I mean, when you're going through, especially like a progressive leftist stuff, you'd probably have to archive everything they tweet. But yeah, come on, leftist news. Come on. Quit crying. You've done this to yourself. And when we both play by the same rules, even if they're the bad rules, it's no harm, no foul, you know. You've been doing this to conservatives for I don't know how long now. It's been quite many years. We're just gonna play evenly. That's all. Love to hear your comments on this. Whether you think it's wrong that they're doing this, or whether you think, hey, they're just playing by the same rules now. I think it's hilarious. But what can you do? As always, like, share, and subscribe. I will catch you on the flip side.